Live with the second segment of this show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and hello. Welcome back to the second portion of episode 3 of Cracking the Shell. In this segment, we are going to be talking about how to counter the Roach Hydra lurker composition as Protoss and Terran. I don't like to do the mirror matchups for like how to deal with this composition, because generally what it comes down to is like personal preference. Really, you can go like Mutalisks and try and drag them out on the map. You can go like Ultralisks, because lurkers shoot slow enough and Ultralisks are big enough that they're not really worth it against Ultras. And then like you need Infestors to lock them down and all that sort of good stuff. But I don't want to get into that. It's not really... It's personal preference, really, what you want to go into. And it depends a lot on the situation of the game. Are you economically ahead or behind? Can you outproduce him? Because if you can outproduce him, you should probably just be going Roach Hydra Lurker. It's whatever. I don't want to talk about it. As Terran, what do you do against this style? It depends on if you're playing mech or bio. We're going to do bio first. The strength of Roach Hydra Lurker is it allows you to have a backbone out on the map to do something with. It allows your Roaches and Hydras to play more aggressively on the map because you have something very close to fall back on if something goes poorly. The thing of it is, this means that they're going to be out on the map. This is similar to the Protoss versus Terran situation, where if the Protoss gets semi-aggressive in the late game, it's doom drop time. If you see the Roach Hydra Lurker player going aggressive on the map, and you have a good siege tank line at your third that can hold the Roach Hydra, doom drop him. Drops are very, very important against this style because his units are always going to be out on the map, or generally they should. The units are going to be pretty far out on the map. And this is fairly important. You have to do things like Hellion run-bys, Widowmine drops, even Doom drops in the later game if you have the army supply to spare and that sort of thing. But you have to be forcing him to consider whether or not he should be moving out on the map at a certain point in time. You can't just let him immediately get that sort of position with Roach Hydra Lurker. You can't let him sort of choke you and harass you to death because you can't actually engage his army due to the lurkers. You need to be getting something done on the map. You need to be getting economic damage done, and that's where the drops come in. He's not going to have enough at home to defend it generally, and it's going to take him a while to move back there. You also need to be clearing up creep. Clearing up creep is extremely important because with creep, the lurkers move in a fair amount faster, and so do the roaches and stuff. And units moving a fair amount faster are a fair amount better. This means that if they ever get into a bad situation in the first place, they're sort of just able to pick up, back up, and, you know, get out of there. If you clear up the creep, this limits their map vision, their map control. They have to play a bit more careful based on where they place their lurkers and where they place their Roach Hydra. It's just all sorts of like, it's standard stuff in PvZ, but you need to play it a little bit more aggressively than you would against like Mutaling Bling, because mutas aren't going to be cleaning up your drops is the thing. Like, they don't have enough gas to invest into the mutas. So generally your drops are going to do significantly more damage, so you need to be doing those drops at pretty much all times. Drop like you're playing a Protoss player, essentially. That's what it comes down to. Mech. You just need to get a foothold on the map. You need to be able to zone out the Vipers so that you don't get I'm gonna wait out this frame droppage here. That's... You gotta be fucking kidding me. Alright, so it looks like we've outlasted the frame droppage, which is great, but also Oh my lord. Anyway, now that we've dropped to 900 fucking frames, let's continue. As mech, you need to get a foothold on the map, right? You need to make sure that the roaches and hydras have to stay as close to the lurkers as possible, but far enough away from the lurkers themselves. This is actually incredibly frustrating. You guys like don't understand. This is pissing me off so much. Look, boys, we've semi-stabilized. Okay. As mech, you need to make sure that your siege tanks and stuff are positioned so that the roaches and hydras need to stay close to the lurkers and can't really move out without getting annihilated, but far enough away from the lurkers that if the roach hydra decides to walk forward, you still have some sort of you gotta be fucking kidding me. I really apologize about the dropped frames, guys. Something's up with my router and I have no idea what it is, and I really just want to finish out the fucking 5 minutes I have left of my show before I go and fix it. You gotta be fucking joking me. I seriously, I have like legitimately like 5 minutes left of content that I just need to convey. It's the rest of mech, and then oh my fucking lord. Okay, it looks like we've semi-recovered. No, literally every time I start talking, it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna drop a few more frames. Oh well, I'm just gonna power through it, and then if things go like super poorly and the video quality is fucking awful, I'll just re-record this, and then like this segment, and then upload it to YouTube later. In any case, to finish out the mech portion, you also need to be very active on the map with Hellions. It's the same idea that we had with the Bioterran, where they're always going to be out on the map because their backbone is not their base anymore. So they're always going to be near the lurkers generally with the Roach Hydra, meaning you can scoot around with Hellions and get a lot of drone kills because it's going to take the Roach Hydra a long time to get back to the base. This also exposes the lurker or the pack of lurkers if they bring too much back to their base to defend against the Roach Hydra, or to deal with the Hellions, excuse me. So essentially what it comes down to is like you do Hellion run-bys until they make a mistake and bring too many Roaches and Hydras back, and then you can pull up onto the lurkers and sort of deal with those in a very nice way. They sort of don't do very well on their own. They need some sort of backup and help, essentially. As Protoss, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be Tempests are very good. You need to go into Tempests. With the Disintegrate ability, you can force the lurkers to either move forward and into an aggressive position where they maybe don't want them, or they're just going to die either way. So you're limiting the lurker count, which is very, very good, because once lurkers get into too high of a number, you just simply like can't do anything about it anymore. They're also very good at zoning out the roaches and hydras on specific maps, like Iron Fortress is very good for this, and Cactus Valley as well, where you have like a lot of those rocks and stuff inhibiting the movement of ground-based units. So you can use that for a positional advantage for Tempests and sort of move your shit forward and just sort of zone out whatever you can with the Tempests. I've been experimenting with double Oracle into Tempest builds, and then like you get like 3 or 4 Tempests and then transition into like Storm or Disruptors or things like that. They're generally working out pretty okay. The the main problem you have is if you overcommit to Tempest and he just decides to go Corruptors, because at that point you're just sort of screwed, because you have way too much of your army supply based in something that isn't going to trade well with the Corruptors anyway. If you only have like 3 to 4 Tempests and he goes Corruptors, well, your Tempests die and then he has a bunch of useless Corruptors. So it's generally like a win-win situation for you as long as you don't overcommit to Tempests. Disruptors are relatively good against lurkers. It takes 2 of them to kill a lurker, so it's semi-inefficient, and I don't personally like using disruptors against lurkers, but you can. Using oracles to slow down the death push and make sure some of the units are just locked down for a good amount of time. Making sure you, again, like Terran, get a warp prism out on the map, do lots of harass and all that sort of stuff. Make sure his economy isn't completely uncontested. On top of that, Colossus are still a relatively decent decision, because it is still Roach Hydra, and this still is StarCraft 2. Like, Colossus aren't great anymore, but it's a lot like Tempest, where if you don't overcommit to them, they can be very, very good, and it can force your opponent to overcommit to a tech. Carriers are also a valid option if he's skimping out on the Hydras a little bit, which he shouldn't if you're going Tempests, but should he be skimping on the Hydras, you can go carriers. You have to try and keep yourself out on the map, not let him pin you on your third base, and then just try and pick off as many lurkers as you can with Disintegrate. Yeah. Anyway, next week I am going to be doing my weekly episode on the mech. What is it, like? New composition, I guess. It's like, I think QXC kind of revolutionized it. It uses a lot of Cyclones and Liberators, and it's very, very good. And I'll be covering that one next week. Please send in your replays to ant_b356@me.com. That would be in the description of the YouTube VOD, and I don't know where else. But Archon mode replays are welcome and encouraged, because it allows lower level players to play at a higher, technically higher level. So you could get 2 diamond players together and play at technically a grandmaster level, because you have 2 people playing. Yeah, so send in your mech replays to that email address. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode. Thank you so much to the guys over at SCV Rush who handed over the replays to the a fair amount of lurker games, actually. That's where I got the majority of my information for lurkers and PvT, is through watching those replays and observing them, as well as like Lycan League and stuff like that. In any case, I'll see you guys next week for that meching Terran junk. If you have any feedback, PM me on Twitch, PM me on Reddit, put it in the Reddit thread that I threw up, email me, that sort of thing. I'm trying to get better at this. I'm trying to do everything that I can to improve. So any feedback would be very, very welcome. Now, on that same hand, if you're just going to be a dick, get out of here. But yeah, constructive criticism is always good. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time.